Not too long ago, I was at the grocery store, and I don't get to town too often. When I do, I've accumulated a long list of things to take care of. I batch those things together to be more efficient. And so I was power walking into Walmart, and as I was, there was an adult man coming my way, and he greeted me, and I greeted him back, and I barely even looked at him during my power walk. And he started to say something else, and I turned and I smiled and sort of replied to whatever he said, and then said, have a nice day, and I kept cruising. As I got into the store, God showed me more about this guy. And I saw that he had some mental disabilities, and he was extremely lonely. And I reinterpreted the exchange we had, and I was pretty clueless at the time, but I should have noticed that he wasn't all there, and that he was lonely, and that whatever it was that I was getting at Walmart was not as important as having a more sincere and less rushed exchange with this man. And I had the opportunity to make that the highlight of his week, maybe his month, maybe to make a new friend. And I blew it. And I wonder how many of these experiences we miss. But in reflecting about this, I think there are so many more that we could proactively find. And it's about that I want to speak a bit right now. There's this trope in movies, superhero movies, where the superhero goes and looks for problems that they can solve given the abilities that they have. And so for example, in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, at one point, I think he was looking for a specific device or something, but at one point, Batman makes this spy device by creating an array of all the cell phones in the city, and he's got software searching for certain things, and it's highlighting that to him. And he knows the problem he's trying to solve, and he knows how he's going to do it, and he's using this to find the opportunity to do it. And then in the Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man's always listening to the first responder radio. He knows he has these abilities, and he knows what problems he can use them to solve. So here's my question for you. What problems can you solve? What problems have you solved? What resources do you have? What challenges have you overcome? What questions have you answered? What problems have you solved in your life? What achievements have you racked up? And how actively are you searching for those who face situations that you have the ability to help them in? Now, a lot of times when we're talking about helping others, it gets to the monetary side of things. But that's the smallest part. Every single day, we're building ourselves through experience, through whether that's sort of outward, we're learning a skill, we're accumulating something, and also we have all these internal experiences and developments. Maybe there's some source of strength or wisdom or familiarity with things that you have to share. The resources each of us has are immense. No matter where you are in life, you have something to give. And the truth is, it might not cost you all that much to do it. Just yesterday, I was at, we don't have a corner gas station, it's miles away, but I was at the gas station last night, and a friend of my wife's came in with one of her daughters, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" We had a quick exchange, and she told me that they were on a rescue mission. I guess another one of her kids, their car broke down somewhere, and they were going to get it. And I thought, well, I have this trailer, and it's just parked out in my field, and if it would help, you're welcome to it. Now, does that cost me anything? I guess there's risk if they crash the trailer or something, but I'm not using it. It's right there. And this is a wonderful, reputable family. If they did damage it, they'd fix it, whatever. What does that cost me? Nothing. But they don't have that trailer, and maybe they have to spend hundreds of dollars on a tow truck otherwise. I don't know. But even the peace of mind that there are people out there that care. So that's a tangible thing, the dump trailer. My time was a resource in the other story with the man. We have so many opportunities to go and find people because of the internet. And I want to talk about that for a minute. So most of us use the internet for email, maybe social media, whatever. We have access to all these things at least. Now, generally, these things get a bad rap because people use them to waste time or for other, even worse things. But have you ever tried to reframe this in a positive sense, in the sense of the good that you could do? Now, often you kind of have to put yourself out there because it's not so easy to find people directly. There are things you could do, and I encourage it. On YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel, they have this set of tools where you can search for trends of what people are looking for, and it'll even use some sort of AI to filter that by the kinds of content that you make. It does a lot of the work for you. And then you could crank out a video that specifically answers things that people are looking for. Now, most people would use that to make money, but you can use it to help people. Now, those don't need to be different, but your primary focus could be to help people. What else is like that? Well, if you're on social media, they have search functions. Different platforms are more amenable to this than others. So Facebook is really based on who you know. There isn't a great way for finding people you don't know. But X, formerly Twitter, is really good at putting you right in front of people that you've never met and you never would. It's not like you're searching for friends or anything. You can just search topically and it will show you different posts based on things that you're interested in. And I don't have experience with Instagram, but I think it's similar in that regard. So have you ever just thought about, done an inventory of your assets, your character assets? What these things I mentioned before, the problems you've solved, the resources you might have, whatever the case may be. Have you done an inventory of that? And then poked around to see if you could find people who are in need of those sorts of things. I have a friend who's taken this advice quite literally, and he happened to experience the tragedy of losing one of his children. And he goes out and he finds people who are struggling with that. And he's able to share with them some of the things that he learned through the experience and the tools that he's acquired to help him deal with that. And also to commiserate, because when you've been through extreme things, one of the best supports can be someone else who's been through those sorts of things. Even if you don't know them, you have this deep shared experience. And so that's a very literal application of this advice. You could take this as specifically as you'd like. Suppose you know the answer to a certain gospel question, and you've worked through it on your own, and maybe you have a little paragraph that you've written, and maybe you've saved it somewhere so you can find it again. And maybe you tweak it and make it a little better each time. But you could actually search for that question and find people who are asking it, and then interact with them. And just think, in the industry in which I worked, the tech industry, a lot of resources can be put into tech problems because when you find a solution, a lot of different people can use it. And so it would make sense to invest a lot of money in that sort of problem if 1 million people can use the result, the solution. And so in that same sense, maybe you've invested a ton of time into a certain gospel principle or a certain life principle, whatever the case may be, whatever you've done, and you can share that with other people. That's wonderful. And you just kind of show up on the scene. But are you looking for the people that need what you have to give? And every one of you has something to give. I know of a lady who's got some kids, and she's been through the process of having tiny kids, and now her kids are a little less tiny, and she takes advantage of every opportunity she has to encourage young mothers, to encourage young ladies that have children, and to encourage young mothers while their children are young. And she's looking in the rear view and sharing what she sees from her own life. The sky's the limit. And these things are so helpful. And it's amazing because you just don't have to say or do all that much to make a huge difference and to be a unique voice on things that shouldn't be so hard to hear, right? So in that case of the lady who shares her advice to younger women, there are a lot of ladies who have had children, but how many are going out there and encouraging the people who are up and coming in that same path? Other younger ladies. And so when I mentioned before about putting yourself out there, what this reminds me of is when you're driving, a lot of people, unfortunately, are the types that they don't put on their blinker until they're actually turning, right? Or it's an afterthought. It's that some people have the motion where it's the same motion, turning the wheel and turning the blinker on is the same motion, right? It's called an indicator because it's supposed to preview what you're about to do, right? It's a signal that says, I'm about to turn. And you do have to put yourself out there to show people that you have something, right? And this brings up this difference between sales and marketing. So marketing is when you need to persuade people that they have a problem. Sales is when you need to persuade people that you have a solution to a problem they know about. Those are very different things. And as you're putting yourself out there, you need to think about which one you're doing. So if you're doing a search for people who are asking a question that you have the answer to, that's sales. If you are putting yourself out there and just talking about things or sharing things that you have, that's marketing. And they're very different approaches. So I'll just put that out there so you can hash away at it. But I invite you to think about this, and I encourage you to look for opportunities to share what you have with others.